All right, game two draft. We have Maokai, Renata, Tristana going off early, Zaya, Rumble, and Nico being the responses from LNG. So we are going to see Kaisa again into Nautilus Talia. Talia has not been performing well, mostly because we haven't seen proactive Weaver's Walls coming out. So it will be interesting to see whether or not we have adaptations to that. We do give up on the other side, however. Jax, Azir, Jarvan, a handful of power picks right there, and synergies, right? These champions set each other up. This is a very good combination. You're always lucky to get something like this. Happy with either Orianna or Azir, both of them synergizing so well with Jarvan. On the back half of the draft, we see the supports being pinched and junglers. In turn, we end up with Renekton, Sejuani. I almost wonder, like, what was the point of pinching the junglers if we're going to end up with Sejuani anyways? Sejuani just very steady. Renekton also very steady. Happy to be blind picked in most of these situations. And frankly, I'm surprised that they didn't get rid of Renekton. Such an easy way to play against Jax, right? You just have a fine matchup. It's solid. You're good. And then you can move off into the fights. And especially when we're talking about synergies with Talia, the things that gate Talia synergies or that gate Renekton is the ability for them to just kite away from you. And if Talia can create that big terrain for themselves, then we have a very easy dive composition set up built here for KTR. So I would have preferred that they switched that in the draft. Also for themselves, we end up with Sivir and Leona, two of the champions with the worst win rates right now at the World Championship. They do have some amount of strengths. Sivir will be able to beat up on the Kaisa during the lane phase and push her in. So we'll see whether or not we have some proactive plays with Leona and the big carries. All right, top down, we enter the Rift. The grind, Worlds 2023. I think later in the game that actually turns into a secret lab advertisement for what it's worth. Anyways, all right, people jumping up right here, bunching up, I should say. This is to stop a ward from being placed in front of Raptors. If those three people can catch someone getting that ward, they will be able to take it. That will completely change the math for when you're hitting your level spikes and what to do for the early game. Also, it can slant whether or not your team has information about their jungler or not. In the Sejuani versus Jarvan matchup, largely Sejuani just wants to farm and match Jarvan to wherever he is. She wants to mirror it and just show up where he shows up, fight second, clean up the fight, go in with the aftershock. Very hard to kill her. She can space between whoever she's peeling for. She's just the singular best jungler at doing that in the game, where she can just reposition the fight around herself. We'll see whether or not we get leashes to try to springboard them ahead. I expect they want to on both sides. On red team, it's because they want to get Jarvan ahead of the Sejuani, and on blue team, it's because they want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So both teams getting a leash means that we're going to be a little bit late to bot lane. We're going to see the safe route taken by red team, the aggressive route taken by blue, right? They want to fight over this. They've got Nautilus, and they have Sejuani on their side. So anytime you can pick a fight knowing that Sejuani can come to slam the door shut, that's what you want to do. Whereas LNG is trying to break the door open with Jarvan and try to get the fight in before we see that play. Now, some interactions with Sivir compared to Nautilus in particular, right? Nautilus hook can still connect. You will block it from actually pulling you, but it still can pull Nautilus closer, so he can use Q flash auto as a way to get on top of Sivir if they do want that engage. We'll see if they opt for that. Cleanse is on the board as well to try to stop that auto route plus Ignite from taking Grasp. Gala and Hong just completely outplayed the bottom lane last game, so we're going to have to see better from aiming and Lahens. Sejuani aptly mirroring, as we said right here. Or we see Leona going in for a bit of a trade, but this is into a lot of minions. So Kai'Sa's going to get all 5 procs off, meaning that she gets that execute, big chunks of damage. Anytime Kai'Sa can get that for herself, it's a big win. So Kaisa Nautilus going to be very happy about that situation. They also have the Sejuani matching the Jarvan, so they're happy there. Every time that Renekton takes these trades against the grasp of the Jax, he's going to be happy. It's the moment in between grasps and W's that he's going to be very happy, because he can go up and sustain back up through the Q. Every time that Counter-Strike goes on, or anytime that Jax jumps onto you, you just immediately dash off. You try to distance yourself, make sure that he can't get the stun and more off onto you. No time for any extra auto attacks. And then once it's down, you have a window, your cooldowns come back up. You have a window where you can trade back a little bit more aggressively, and your kit will be better as long as you avoid the Counter-Strike. And obviously that situation where if Counter-Strike blocks your W, you're in big hurt trouble. All right, pushes being up. They're getting the front push on the cannon as they have Sejuani moving up into the camp. Because of the start, however, we're not going to see any continuation clears right here on the Raptor camps because they are not spawned. Both junglers moving in, presumably to get vision on the camps. I actually like this, right? You see Sejuani moving the ward over. It doesn't see quite as quickly all the motions that might come here, but it still sees the camp and it plays against a potential control ward. Beautiful play by Zika using the jump into flash to land the counter strike. That's what we're talking about. While that counter strike is up, there is kill potential for Jax, or significant trade win potential. Keen is going to want that one back for sure. Looks like that was also done in the time frame of having the longsword advantage, right? So coming back and saying, hey, I actually just fully win this now because I've got this longsword difference. Now Sejuani realizing that with this push has enough cover to go for this. This is so bad for LNG. They can't even go back to the lane. However, this will beat the fact that they're bush camping here. They realize, wait, they should have been back by now. Okay, they took a respawn. We're just going to get this push in, make sure that we're going to jump back. They're going to go for a recall to make sure that they're not down 1,000 gold in the lane. We'll probably can see a Noon Quiver here. No, triple longsword. Okay, so that means not quite 1,100 gold then, yeah? Might have had exactly 1050. That looks like it might have just been the difference between the two of them. I'm surprised that we didn't have... Oh, no, okay. This could mean that we're trying to go for an advantage with the items, but not going for the Umbral build. We've seen a lot of Serrated Dirk into Umbral get a second Serrated Dirk to get your immediate Q spawn. But I do believe that the Duskblade continuation is the wrong continuation, except, like, that needs to be the exception. If the game is all about you helping to get that dive and resetting, then great. It's fine that you want to help contribute for that. Hold on, Sivir goes in, uses the spell shield for the W, means that she actually gets taken out. Gala, hubris, you could have dodged that thing from a mile away. Opts to just block a CS using the shield and then doesn't respect the fact that Nautilus is right there to take her down. Nautilus actually not taking the recall is the difference in that fight, meaning that they are still there in position. Nice little play. All right, this is going to swing the entire matchup right here. Nope, unable to continue. That's fine. Zika can't really stay. They will try to, but you're dead to one empowered Q here from the Gator. With all that Fury built up, that is the moment that you're trying to flex, but he has to back off because he knows that Sejuani's down bot, and he doesn't have information on Jarvan. You see that he's taking a guessing ping right here, or he may have even seen them. But taking a ping to guess, you see Lehen's never actually left. Look at that, just a block for no good reason. Everyone gets into position. We auto flash to make sure that we connect. It is an empowered ability. Empowered abilities will always connect even through flash. Basic auto attacks, if you get out of vision, you can cancel them, or even melee attacks, you can flash to get out of range. But if they've already been queued and the flash comes after the auto command and it's something with an effect like Nautilus's root, it means that it will follow, it will kill. And they get a huge advantage for the bot lane for themselves. Sejuani even picking up the kill. Sometimes you want to get that gold for the spike on the AD carry, but oftentimes you do want that spike to go to the jungler so that they can spread it across other lanes. Anytime you can get first blood to a jungler, it can make a massive difference for their ability to influence all the lanes. So I don't mind the Sejuani taking it, although on Sejuani more than others, it's doing less. But she'll be happy to have those extra stats, happy to fight against Jarvan versus a pickaxe with the Bomby Cinder. Oh, interrupting the dash here. BDD actually stops the dash from Scout. That could have been a big punisher right there. We'll see if we get another iteration of that pattern. Now, Talia into Azir is basically why we had Talia at the top of our meta for the beginning of this tournament, saying, yeah, it's okay. Like, you can have Azir, we can have Talia, we can create proactive plays. The proactive plays part has been the part that's been missing so far in the tournament, and mostly we've just been getting these bundled up fights where Orianna is just king or queen, as it were. As we continue into the tournament, the team fight spacing is going to get better and better, so I wonder if champions like Orianna will start falling off the wayside a little bit, even though they're considered to be very strong. Now that all of your opponents are actually competent team fighters, except for a couple remaining teams that have shown some weakness there. Most of the Chinese and Korean teams, at least, are very good at team fighting, and so Orianna gets a little bit worse in those situations where you just know they're going to keep their battle lines, they're going to keep really good position. You're never going to get more than one carry sucked into the shockwave, and if you're not, then what are you actually getting out of the Orianna pick? Well, we'll see certain iterations of it. You know, putting a shield on a diver like Renekton has a ton of value, gives you a lot of capacity to get deep into the fights. So I do expect her to still see some amount of play going forward, but she should no longer be the 100% presence like she was the play-ins. Zero dragons off the board, 9 minutes in. Herald normally getting traded there. The fact that KT is able to get them for themselves. Sivir is not feeling confident moving up for that because she feels like she's down in items. Opts for the push instead and the recall. This is a potential loss right here. Sivir has recalled, meaning that everyone needs to come off the dragon. This is a very selfish play from Sivir. You do need to do it if you don't want to fall further behind in bot lane, but it means that your team can claim no advantages, and the time that you've bought for yourself means that these two champions have lost that same amount of time because they started the dragon, and now you have nothing for it. So now you're just going to have losses in multiple different positions. Leona's going to fall further behind. Sivir's already behind, and now Tarzan's behind as well. Seems like a pretty big loss. I wonder if we get any amount of language discrepancy, right? Tarzan being Korean. I think Zika is also Korean. I'm not positive about Zika, though. Gala, Scout, and Hong have been in China forever, though. Very experienced players. They've been through the ropes. They want to put together a championship team. They agreed to bring in Tarzan to say, hey, no, we just need this level of a jungler so that we can do our thing. But exactly, like, this is not what you want. You don't want this situation where you're syncopating your backs, where you have two people moving over here while one person's moving there. There's nothing left on the map for you to actually pressure. It's too weak. You're too vulnerable in that time frame where you're taking that recall. You're gone from the map for about 30 seconds. Anyways, KT senses, okay, you guys are going to play weak. We'll play strong. We'll come down here. Talia's going to start positioning herself for the wall. Look at the position that she starts grabbing for herself. She's going to look like potentially segment the wall, keep them to this side, and say, hey, we can look for this fight. We actually see a flash engage from Sejuani. Means that we get a knock-up into a knock-up. Beautifully done there by KT, playing pinball with Leona, who can't survive even having Glacial Augment and the W. I don't think she even procced the Augment. Meanwhile, Scout does get a plate for themselves, but Dragon in tow, definitely worth for KT. Very, very worth. See whether or not we continue the aggression here. This is a Weaver's Wall terrain. We're going to split the fight up. This is actually not what you wanted. This means Tarzan's going to die by himself. Several miscommunications already between Tarzan and his laners. Getting a little bit inted here by his teammates. It's going to be very hard to reset your psyche now. If you're Tarzan, you have to say, wow, all right, I tried to make a dragon play, my AD carry backed. I tried to go into this position where we could have fought Azir backed and pushed them back into me. Didn't even try to peel them away. Doesn't even deal any of the return damage. So that's got to feel really bad if you're in that position. Going to be a bit of a struggle to reset the mental. Bop into bop into bop. Yep, no Glacial Augment. Confirmed. This is the play we're talking about, right? Weaver's Wall comes in, not quite able to funnel this all off, but stunned, chain CC. Yeah, maybe there's just no continuation. Maybe there's nothing left there. Nautilus being in the vicinity means that there's nothing left to get. You could have given a little bit more of a chunk, but going to feel bad to be J4 in the rest of this game. 3-1 early lead, 1.5k in the bank for AT. Renekton's going to feel very strong in this matchup up until we get that Divine Sunderer. Once we have Divine Sunderer, Jax is going to just keep on ripping in with every W cast. You don't actually need to play with this much respect. I suppose that they're doing it, again, because Sejuani's in the bot side and they don't know where J4 is, although they could, right? You see these wards? They should have an idea where J4 could be. I suppose he could be pathing through the top lane, and you're not really losing that much to just sit back. You don't need to make it about top lane hubris, but you do want to use Renekton to its fullest, right? Anyways, Renekton also realizing that, hey, I've got a lot of unspent money, probably around 2,000 gold, actually. So saying, I want to just get out of this stage. I'll wait for Jax to back. I'll push the wave second, get it crashed in, and then go pick up what is probably going to be Gore Drinker plus boots here. It looks like we're just shy of that. Ending up with an extra long sword instead. All right, Radiant Virtue and Bomby Cinder being picked up for Sejuani. She's going to feel very strong in these fights. We're very close. We should actually have the Leandries in base from Talia. Next back, she's going to go for her best situation. Maybe she goes for one play with the Weaver's Wall before recalling. Sometimes you go off, you get this wave crashed in, especially when we're talking about cannon waves. If you can crash those in right before you go, then there's very little repercussion coming back. A little bit easier to crash the non-cannon waves, obviously. So Talia's looking to make a play. Step into the fog. No, just end up going for the recall. But you see how she positions herself to the side, supports the Sejuani on the steal, means that they can take advantage. And again, J4 is just having a tough time. And not really his fault either, right? Especially that play in the bot lane. The fact that Sivir recalled was such a huge tempo punt right there, that they gave it all back to KT. And now KT, Keen just willing to hold these waves off, saying, yeah, the longer this game goes with fewer resources available to the Jax, the better it is for our team. I don't need to be pushing or going for tempo up in my lane. My job is to keep Jax as small as possible. And probably feels pretty good about it. Up the longsword, 11 versus 10, so absolutely should be looking for an all-in right now. Jax will pick up 11 off this wave. In fact, he gets it right off that first minion. Renekton saying, I'm going to be better in the team fights than you, Mr. Jax, so I don't need to take any risks here. Sejuani going into the teeth of this control ward. Keen's going to take this. We're going to see whether or not we get the ultimate up. Might go in response. Oh, beautifully done. In fact, using the Q as he's spacing to make sure that he gets a hit off, that's going to feel really bad for Zika. So we're having a lot of tempo losses here from LNG. Azir going to be the only person who is on pace with this game. 172 at 15 minutes, going over 11 CS a minute. Has the turret for themselves as well, so they are going to be very strong. Look at this, Lost Chapter into Nashor's Tooth. We haven't seen this yet this tournament. It's something we've spoken about, that Nashor's Tooth giving such a good bundle of stats to the Azir. The problem is that this does not affect the on-hits on your W. What it does help you with is the moments where you throw. Oh, King could have continued that. You can throw the soldiers and not worry about them getting up inside you, because you can then attack back with Nashor's Tooth procs. Problem is, this stage in the game, we're only talking about 30 damage, so it's very, very small. But the extra attack speed and the haste is very good for the rest of the comp, plus the 100 AP. All right, here we go. Ultimate in, dashing forward. We have the teleport down. Azir is strong. They are going to try to shuffle him. Oh, he flashes, but he still gets hit. He's going to want that one back. He flashes right in response to the cast. You have to allow that to have some travel time, because that thing, if you're here, it actually casts behind you. There's a little bracket. Then it pushes forward and it ends up pushing you this way, right? So you have to wait for this travel time. Wait till it goes, then you can flash over the top. A little bit of a miss by Keen. However, good answer here by KT. Mid lane turret is down. They get permanent damage on the tier 2, the inner turret as well. And BDD is getting a chunk down here. Scout responding up in the top lane. You see that difference in turret damage though? Nashor's Tooth being huge for being able to actually hit into the turret. And even though BDD had a big head start, Azir basically kills it right after. Now, coming back, who's going to recall? Who's going to have the shops? Azir's going to be feeling really big right now, having gotten 2 waves, plus the kill, plus the turret for themselves. We're going to see this play again. Keen should have felt very, very strong here. Auto in. Boom, gets off, gets the R in response to the counter-strike. You're feeling really good. Your W is about to cool down. Should have taken this fight straight at the Zika. I don't know why he didn't. Maybe thought that he could move Azir this way and then flash over the wall. But again, got to make sure to flash over the wall if that's your plan. So let's just a 1k gold differential now. Azir going to work on trying to complete their mythic before taking the recall. You see this line of wards in position, a little trapezoid, right? Get a little deep ward. Would have preferred for this ward to be on the other side of that wall. But they're trying to set up a good little pocket where Azir can feel comfortable splitting, pushing waves. As always, into Talia compositions, you have to be very careful about where you're pushing, where you might end up getting trapped. But largely that's on the Talia as well to go and actually make those plays. Now, a little bit of a miss right here. 2 control wards being placed as they're moving forward. The tempo itself would have been good enough. They didn't actually need these control wards. So that is going to be 150 wasted, potentially 200, right? If that ends up being golden experience in the pockets of LNG if they end up going for it. Talia moving side to side, picking up all these turrets, doing well for herself. Hey, Keen trying to bait a little bit. Lehen's not quite there. Ends up giving up an empowered grasp. Divine Sunder proc. Probably wishes that they had that back. Ends up going for aggression. Nautilus is there, but we have the jump over by Zika. No big deal. A BDD, what's that angle you're going to find? You don't have much vision in this northern quadrant, so you better crash this wave and get out immediately. You don't even need to stick around for that minion. It is dead. You definitely want to prioritize staying alive. Might have been scooped up. There's definitely a couple seconds there available for counterplay, but now we have strength. You see this ward right in the middle of the lane as they step forward. Renekton playing weak side because he's got the teleport available. I'd like to see a very deep ward placed that will be able to give them vision. Normally this ward right here is actually better served slightly further over. In that little pocket, you can actually see all the way towards both junctions, and it also keeps it out of vision of any control wards. So that is a ward I'd like to see improved. Often it also doesn't get swept. So lots of reasons to want your ward to be right here. And on top of that, probably most of all, it's the most likely to survive for Renekton to get that good teleport flank off. Now, instead, nothing is taken. 1.5 gold, 1.5k gold lead in their pockets. They're going to go manifest that into the inventories. Looks like we're going to have a Seraph's Embrace for Talia, which definitely means that she's planning on diving into the middle of the fight. That extra shield can keep you alive long enough for your team to go into the fight, so expect Talia to continue going off into the side lanes. Kaisa Nautilus will dutifully keep this push, trying to keep this prio in mid, allowing them to create an umbrella of vision for themselves in whichever quadrant they want. Also very important that specifically they've got gold lead onto Kaisa, meaning that she'll be able to take these fights. The on-hit damage build is going to be very strong going into these fights. Sivir very much front loading her damage on the Q, may not always get the opportunities to get those off. And it feels like LNG is just playing very defensively, pick up the wave. It seems like the moment that KT finds the angle that they want, they'll be able to take that and find the engage that they're looking for. You see this pocket of vision. Kaisa, again, pushing. We have vision. We've got the Lions pushed. They're just creating this big umbrella for them to hide themselves in the pit. Hung Flash being used. All right, they're trying to get a pick onto Sejuani. This is very risky, though. You're going to use so much to try to get Sejuani. You might not even be able to get it. In fact, Jarvan bites the dust. You spend everything onto Sejuani, ends up just taking down the passive, the Aftershock, and 95% of the HP. Means that is a tremendous win for KT. That pocket of vision, plus we have control ward here, right? Means that this becomes a pocket where you can hide. They lose vision of you. You keep vision of them. As always, those little pockets, those little control wards that come into play make all the difference. Very surprised to see the proactivity here. Hong, though, flashing just to not get knocked up by Talia. I don't know, right? And like then you don't have the abilities available from your Leona, so you're going for this pick, but you don't have continuation. A little bit of a reach. LNG trying to fish into the darkness. All right, Kaisa pushing up mid, feeling really comfortable. This is a pocket you have to be very careful. Sejuani and Talia are down right, so you cannot put yourself into this little corridor. This corridor of doom does spell death for most AD carries. Very difficult to get yourself out of that situation. So you have to be very careful. Does push up though, right? This is what you'd rather do. Push up, fall back, reset to your line of scrimmage with your other players. It does mean that they take their winning position, turn it into 3 dragons. And they'll have the prerogative to go for number 4. No real answer being put in place here by LNG too. They just feel like they're playing defensively. Super defensively. A couple wards in the pit. One inside, one outside, one being shadowed here by this blue control ward. They realize that the recall timers are up, so they use this window to try to get into the river for themselves. See if they can lay themselves. You need to get a deeper teleport ward. You need to get, either tuck one in here or put one right here. Those are the 2 best spots that you will still be able to see the junctions, people moving through, like that ward right there. see the paths that they take without being in range of the sweepers or the control wards that go into the bushes closest to that wave, and also being a premium spot for a teleport. But they are not able to get that deep ward for themselves. It means that they have to step back, and what tools do they really have accessible to themselves for this fight? It's going to be very, very difficult. You may put J4 on a peeling plan. All right, Hong's going to bite the dust. We'll see if there's any retaliation damage. Not really. Just cuz fronting for the team, getting in front means that they get Leona for free. Sivir is on Kraken Slayer plus Noroi Quickblades, which means almost all of her damage is loaded into that Q. A little bit bouncing around on the bouncing blades. Neat little play by Sejuani. You get situations like this where you can actually take the small ones, leave the big one there. But look how they're preparing for this, right? Flanking positions. Keen is going to drop the hammer on them right here. They're going to set up. You see how BDD has a flanking position too? It means that they can use the Weaver's Wall to separate this fight into whichever half they want. She wants to get ready to split this fight, but she needs to fight the right angle so it's not screwing over Renekton. Here we go. We're corralling them in. We're kind of put them into one pocket, but Renekton is completely out of this fight right now. There's nothing. We're going to try to reconvene. If you're LNG, move up, try to regroup upon the Leona. The fact that Gala's moving left, they're trying to use this right here as a pivot point, but they have no vision in this bush, which means that ultimately they're definitely going to lose. Renekton eventually gets in, dashes, flashes, gets on top of Scout, forces him to use all of his resources. Kaisa pops the Azir as well. Continuation favoring KT with superior vision, superior map, superior macro, superior play. They win. They're going to take a tremendous advantage on this game and presumably win from here on out. Talia already having the inside track here. Jax has no good avenue. You still have to respect the play. You're not that afraid of a Jax as a Talia because you can put down the boulders and stop this. But look at all of this gold that's ballooning into their lead. All these people dead. Notice, by the way, solo queue. Half your team would have recalled after the Baron. But we have this KT taking the maximum here, going even for the middle base turret plus inners on both sides. They're going to have such a big gold advantage, probably around 8,000 gold after they shop now. I love this position by BDD, putting out the E because you've lost vision around them around that corner, so you just don't want people jumping on top of you when you're unaware. LNG trying to redraw their battle line, but again, they don't have this control ward placed, so they constantly are losing vision as the fight is progressing. Meanwhile, that control ward is constantly giving them the avenue of vision that they want for themselves. Aiming coming over here, cleanse even, reposition with the flash, move back over to your Sejuani, means that there's no threat back onto you. Beautiful positioning by aiming in the fight, much better than game one. All right, almost 8K is exactly what we get. Keen's going to feel very strong right now. Actually going straight into the teeth of the Jack, saying, yeah, like, I understand, I'm just way bigger than you now. Even through the Counter-Strike, you're not going to be able to do enough to me. I'm happy to take what would be a potentially losing trade and just take it and win it anyways. But obviously with the extra item versus stopwatch especially, means that he's just going to trounce that fight. What do we have left? If you're LNG, what are you trying to get out of this? Well, you want to get ultimate buttons synergized, and you want Azir to scoop. You will need to find a pick that splits the team up into two. Unfortunately, this is not how Azir wants to play the endgame. You're very much looking to peel with your own ultimate, or find the like wombo combo initiation. Their team doesn't really have that. They might have an element of scoop into a Leona ultimate and a Jax Counter-Strike, but the stun from Leona single target, not going to be the best for following that up. But if they can, they want to give themselves a little pocket of vision, shallow line, and then on the other side of the map, they're going to go for a potential teleport ward, right? Always keep a ward in the lane. Nautilus will probably be clearing that out, though. In fact, you see that he's got the ping. Ends up, no, they don't clear it. It's still there. But they say, we've got enough pressure in all the lanes. You have no ability to come to answer to us. We're going to go take this dragon for ourselves. We have a checkmate position. We're going to go for adjacent lane pushes. The reason that we don't see 104 is because it gets countered by 5 in mid, where they just push up here and they say, all right, you know, we'll trade. And then we have the threat going off to the side lane. If you're KT, you don't want to give anything back this game, right? You just want to continue to close all the doors. You've got mid lane. You've even got basically full health. turret here at your back, meaning you're very, very comfortable using that as a pivot spot. So now they're going to press up. Nautilus is going to get one round of wards out, shallow. Then we're going to go and try to get a recall set up for the second one. And then once we get those next round of pushes, it'll probably be 4 up in the top, 1 in the middle. Renekton going in the middle because he can still threaten this and threaten the dive here. But basically, they're not looking for ending strategy. They're looking for room for the Baron. Sometimes with less than 3 minutes, somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 minutes is enough time still to go for an opposite side of the map push. But generally, you want to do the opposite side first so that the inhibitor is gone. If you haven't made meaningful progress on this inhibitor, then it's too late to do it. You'd rather just draw your lines here, get your vision in the reasonable part of the map, and then control this vision for the Baron. There's just not enough time to really set up that same siege here and then go after Baron, because then all your wards will be in this quadrant and you actually give freedom of push here. Now, we have seen a couple teams try to actually create a punish here where you say, all right, you want to spend one person over, we'll actually go into this pocket and try to fight your one man rotating crew. Doesn't look like we're going to get that this game though. All right, we're opting for Renekton up in the top lane and 4 up in the middle. Could make sense to leave Taliyah alone with the waves as well, right? She's very happy to teleport in and just wall off the fight in whichever direction. So it looks like she's en route to bottom side. Don't like that she took the blast cone. That blast cone really only favors you. One behind the pit. Going to have this wave dutifully pushed. Now, what you should be doing is a slow push into a stacked wave, right? Now, this double stacked wave is actually a big enough threat that they can actually continue going for this. They don't need to go for Baron. So by holding this quadrant, you see everyone fighting for this quadrant of vision. It means that Taliyah is completely alone on this side of the map. With all the vision that they have, they know that there's no threat to her. She could come over and actually push this over, instead opting to go for a rotation. So this is what we're talking about. This was punished in... I forget which game it was, but they actually came over and intercepted this rotating player that ruined the Baron pressure for themselves because they were down 5v4. We ended up with an outplay at the pit anyways. But this time we see LNG just fighting to try to wrestle this area of control for themselves. Jax steps back to the wave, tries to reset it, make sure it's not a game-ending threat. Look what Cuz is doing outside the pit, jumping out and walling everybody off, dashes back in. That is beautiful play from the tank on the team, making a shut there, so that there is no way back into the fight. If you try to go through the Sejuani, then you're just going to be fighting Renekton smashing on top of you, plus Taliyah segmenting fight into 2 pieces. Immediate pushes here, not waiting for the waves, not waiting for items, I should say. Going up, grabbing Prio over here. Taliyah is going to look to make this wall right across this angle. Yeah, this is a little bit shallow, actually. You would have liked this to be a little bit deeper. This is not deep enough. It means that half of the team, or the team can actually just stand on that half of the wall and not be afraid they can still clear it. So that tool is gone. So now we're going to go back to your normal path, which is going to be 4 people, sink this down. Renekton still pushing up at the top lane. All right, 4 people because you're super strong. It allows you to move in and guard the cannons, which is very, very important. We might have a moment where we swap the roles here, although Taliyah, Sejuani, Nautilus very happy to draw this line of scrimmage. Renekton bringing in the pit. Normally, you'd want this to be the other way around. Taliyah up in here, Renekton with the flanking group. But 4 versus 1, we're happy. We see knockbacks. Jarvan never getting a spell off. Kai'Sa jumps into the back of the pit, ends up in a 1v1 battle with the Azir, rips him apart. Wallet diff to end the game. Beautifully done by KT. Feeling so good about these fights. Kai'Sa and Taliyah will keep on working on the waves. Renekton might opt to just go for a recall because the fastest way into the base is actually to recall and teleport rather than try to walk this distance. It's approximately the same amount of time, but beautiful win by KT. We are going to game 3.